Should you use dating apps while on vacation? In my opinion, it all depends. If you are open to dating while you're traveling, there's a lot that could happen. You can meet new people wherever you go, you can make new friends, you can make a business connection, and you might even find a romantic encounter. Dating while traveling can be a lot of fun, it can be exciting, and it all depends on your expectations and what you're looking for. I personally like dating when I travel because I get to meet so many different types of men from all over the world. And I find it really refreshing and fascinating to see how different men can be from the ones that I meet in my area. And because I work remotely, I actually can eventually move for the right man. So I'm open to relocating, which I do let people know when I'm dating from wherever I am. So I just came back from a 2-week vacation in California. I was visiting my daughter. And while I was in LA, I went on Bumble and I immediately connected with a really good looking guy. He seemed to be a potential match for a lot of reasons. He was good looking, he had really nice long salt and pepper hair, he had a beautiful smile and nice teeth, and it's not that common to find people with a thick head of hair and nice teeth in my age bracket in my 60s. And really, most important, I loved his profile. I love what he said. Our values seemed to line up. He really talked a lot about the importance of making a difference in the world every day. And that's something that's important to me too. It's why I'm a dating coach. It's why I do the work I do. So I said, it sounds like we have a lot in common. Let's talk. Right away, we got on the phone, and during our first phone conversation, we laughed together. We seemed to have so much in common that I kind of joked, hey, we have so much in common. Why don't we get married? Ha ha ha. He sent me some pictures of his kids and a street sign from Israel that had his last name on it because one of the streets in Israel was named after his family. So he was sending me a bunch of things while we were still talking on the phone. And I'm thinking, this guy likes to share and open up. He opens up easily. Kind of cool, but I don't know. I wouldn't share pictures of my kids on a first phone call, but everybody's got different ways of sharing. We both talked about why we were talking. Like, we're both looking for a life partner, and both of us said we were not tethered to where we lived and we could relocate for the right person. So we made a date for that Saturday night. My daughter was working a concert. She is a crew member of a concert company, and she had some tickets. So I wanted to invite him to the concert. She did not want to meet him, so she did not like that idea. But because she had to get to the concert early, I said, why don't we meet for dinner before the concert? Great. We met. We ended up walking around this really trendy part of Los Angeles, and we had a dinner together. While we were walking, he started up a conversation with everyone we met, and he talked to the waitress. He asked her to speak Spanish. I mean, he was just personable. He made people laugh, and I really liked that. After dinner, we were walking around. My daughter was standing outside of the concert venue, and she goes, "Oh, just come to the concert. I'll save you a seat." So we're sitting in the concert. It's this really very intimate acoustic concert. We sat across from this adorable young couple. And again, we were having these great conversations. And I realized something about dating and first dates. Most of my first dates, and I would say probably most of all people's first dates, are coffee dates or drink dates and maybe a dinner date. But it's usually someplace where we're sitting down and we're just kind of talking at each other, and it can be kind of like an interrogation, even though we try not to make it that way. This date was really different. First of all, I'm in a town that I don't know, and we're walking in and out of stores like a florist, and we're looking at beautiful Chinese or Japanese teapots in another window, and there's a ceramics place, and I'm learning about him through his taste in aesthetics, in like dinnerware and the things that we saw in stores, we seem to have similar taste. So it's much more exciting to get to know somebody through kind of walking and talking. And also, we sat down, we had just a bowl of soup, and it was also just, him talking to the waitress and being so comfortable with himself. And during the concert, we're talking to these young people, and we're talking about podcasts, and we're just kind of revealing parts of our lives that I don't think we would have had we had just a typical coffee date. So I really recommend that you do that, the out of the box date. And I we ended the date. We both walked back to our cars. We happened to be parked right next door to each other. And since I was leaving the next day for a week with my daughter, we decided we'd meet again when I returned the following Monday. So here is date number 2. For the second date, he asked me where would I like to meet, and I said I'd love to meet at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art because it was walking distance from my daughter's apartment, and I really wanted to go to that museum. He asked me if he could bring a picnic and we could have a picnic before. I thought, oh, that's really romantic. That's so sweet. So he brought the picnic. He had prepared in his backpack. He'd taken out all these things, a bottle of seltzer, a bottle of water. I mean, we're talking big bottles. He had cups. He had little containers with all kinds of dips and crackers and blueberries, and he had just prepared a lot. And I appreciated all the work that he put into preparing this picnic. And he had even asked me if I had any food restrictions, which was really considerate. And then after the picnic, I was ready to go into the museum. And I said, did you buy tickets in advance? Because I read online that you have to buy them in advance because of the COVID restrictions. And he said, no, let's just go with the flow. Let's just walk around. So I'm usually happy to go with the flow, but I kind of wanted to meet at the museum for a reason. But I was still having fun with him, so we walked around and he took me to see some of the sculptures he liked outside. And then we walked around the La Brea tar pits, which is right next door to the museum. And it's all of these fossils from a long time ago that got in tar, got stuck in tar. And so everything is like, it's just very cool. And then forget the museum, he was interested in going for coffee. So we found this cute little coffee shop and we got cappuccinos. And as we were sipping our coffee, I told him, I'm leaving like in 2 days. Tomorrow's my last day in LA. What do we do now? Do we continue to get to know each other from like 3,000 miles away? And how might that pan out? So I suggested, that we had a nice connection. Why don't we FaceTime and have phone calls and exchange texts and continue to get to know each other? And if we continue to like each other, then we can plan some trips to see each other every month or so, whatever. I didn't have an agenda. I just knew that if we liked each other, we needed to get to know each other better. We'd only had 2 dates. But his response was very different from mine. He said, no, that's not going to work at all. The only way this can work is if we move in together. We can't get to know each other any other way. We have to be in each other's space. My jaw dropped and I said, I barely know you and I'm not ready to move in with you. That's way too fast for me. But he was adamant and he said, I'm not necessarily talking about we have to sleep in the same bed. We just need to be in each other's space to see if the relationship is going to work. And I had really liked this guy. It's the first person I had been attracted to or interested in a long time. And I needed some time to process what he had just said. I mean, like my initial reaction was, what? But am I overreacting? I like to take my time. So I said, why don't we get together one last time before I leave and we can discuss some more tomorrow. He said, great. We hugged goodbye and he said he would text me later with some date ideas. And later that night, he sent a text and he said, "Why don't we meet the next day for a walk on the beach and a sail on his boat?" Because he lived right on the water. And I really had to process it. I started Googling him, which I don't do before I meet somebody usually, but I'm starting to get a bad feeling in my gut. So I'm Googling him and I'm finding things on the web that pointed to some some things that I really didn't like. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. So I waited till the next morning to get back to him. And that last comment about moving in together brought out this intense side of him that I had seen come out in little ways during some of our other conversations. He was a very passionate person, but to the point of making other people wrong, which was something I actually had brought up in our first conversation, was we were talking about politics, and I have on my profile that I am apolitical. And his profile said he was liberal, I think. And he said, "Well, what is apolitical to you?" And I said, "It's that I don't enjoy talking about politics because I don't like right or wrong thinking. I don't like when somebody tries to convince me that I'm wrong and they're right." And that was something that he did many times, kind of in subtle ways, but he was an extreme activist when it came to the environment. He actually reminded me a lot of someone else I had dated that did not work out at all. And so I didn't really trust his ability to make good decisions. There were a lot of things coming up for me. So I decided that it was over. It had been fun while it lasted, and I am glad that I did use the dating apps while I was on vacation, because I do think that every date is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn more about men and about yourself. And it's one of the best ways to refine your must haves and your deal breakers. Sometimes they're subtle. Like, I really thought this guy was great. And when you have attraction and you haven't gone out with somebody that you felt a connection with in a long time, it's easy to kind of dismiss those deal breakers. But here's what I know for sure. I would use the dating apps on my next trip again. I love the adventure, and you really never know. A long distance relationship could work if the connection was strong and we were both on the same page and at the same pace. So, my question to you is, have you ever used dating apps while on vacation? I would love to hear your story in the comments.